Making papel picado next is very much, in many ways, a craft tradition in Mexico and found in households. And as I mentioned, continues for generation and generation. And I'm showing you here some great photographs that were shared with me recently. And you can see this man, Don Rene Mendoza, has taken a group of tissue, these very thin layers of colored tissue. He's layered them on top of one another, and he's piercing them with these chisels. And on the left, I'm showing you the number of different types of chisels that he would need to make these papel picado. Now, the use of tissue paper to make papel picado makes this tradition very much an ephemeral art form. It's not intended to last a long time, especially if it's left outside and to the elements. The ephemeral nature of the papel picado underscores its relevance as something temporary and actually quite spiritual during the Day of the Dead. Papel picado can also be made by folding the tissue and using it in taking sort of scissors and cutting, and many of you may have done this in school, but more commonly is, as I'm showing you here on the right, is using the chisel and a mallet, as you see Don Rene Mendoza here on the right. So I just wanted to mention that these photographs were shared with me by one of the artist fellows who have come to the Hispanic Society thanks to a grant from the Vilcek Foundation. And one of them is Blanka Amercua, who sent me the photographs from a trip she had taken to Huitzlocotla in the summer of 2018. And she spent quite a bit of time with Don Rene Mendoza in his workshop. And if you go to the next image, and here is Blanka on the left working with Don Rene. And I love this photo with, she's working hard on with her chisels, and the grandson is just to her left, kind of peering his head, and kind of emphasizes sort of this family tradition and kind of all of this all happening in one's home. And on the right is a photograph that Blanka shared with me of a workshop she did recently in Riverside Park in 2021, which is really wonderful. And she's one of the few artists who is really sharing this tradition in the United States. Let's see. So can you go next? So one thing I didn't mention, but once the pieces are completed, the idea of using up to 40 or 50, can you go back one? The idea of putting 40 to 50 sheets of paper together to create these piercings, then you have the duplicates. And so then you can tie a string to it, and you can hang them on these wonderful banners that we see on the streets and in these and in different festivities. Okay, next. So Blanka, with the help of Don Rene, she purchased, I think, somewhere like 161 chisels. She told me she had an interesting challenge to get through the airport with all of these chisels, but she brought them to the US, and she's sharing this art form with students throughout, adult and young. And she's also it's been a huge influence on her own work. And so I'm showing you on the upper left, kind of her work on the papel picado tradition. I also think it's interesting that she uses the remnants of of what she's made to create collage. And those remnants and those collages then influence a larger art form, which I'm showing you on the left. And then on the right is an installation that she recently did at the, where was it? In Tribeca at the Block Gallery in 2019. And she really feels that this is an important part of her tradition, especially being that she was born in Mexico and now working here in New York.